Welcome to episode 74 of Marathon Talk, powered by Abbott World Marathon Majors. On our latest show, we've got TCS Sydney Marathon Special. We'll have all the news from the elite field as some of the greats make their debuts down under.
We hear from TCS Sydney Marathon race director Wayne Larden as preparation for the first major in Australia steps up. We also hear how excitement is growing in the city from one of its own, James Constantine.
Finally, we hear from our listeners who are headed out to Australia for the race, including details of the training program of a certain 6-star finisher who you will know and her quest to gain her 7th Abbott World Marathon Majors star. All this and more on Marathon Talk. Deena, we've had a little bit of a break. We're back for episode 74. It's been a while. How have you been? Any trips lately?
Oh, come on, Martin. A play on words. Trips, yeah, it's been a busy break. But I did fall just a couple of days before recording this. And
what's that running?
it was running. I was running on a trail, and it seems like it's exactly when you like look up and you're just in awe of your surroundings, like taking in the beauty. And then I just face planted and I looked behind like, what the heck was that? It's like someone just shoved me to the ground. It was this little root sticking out and my toe just hooked it and I flung to the ground faster than I could know. So I'm a little banged up, but I think I'm faring well.
All right. Did you combat roll? Did you do a combat roll, go into full landing position?
There was no room to do that. It was like literally like bushes on both sides of me, but my sunglasses flew off of my head and I spent the next 5 minutes looking in the bushes for them. I found them like 10 feet away in the bushes. They have blue lenses, so they were kind of reflecting the sky, and finally found those. And once I got my glasses back on my head, I felt free to carry on and get myself home and cleaned up.
So good. I'm glad you're all right.
Yeah. But it's fine. It's just something that you're like really clumsy.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
When you fall over, it's a pain, isn't it? I've fallen over a few times, and my wife falls over loads and loads when she runs. She's burning me up, going, I've fallen over again. One time, she actually fell over, knocked herself out because she ran into a lamppost. Fell over and knocked herself out, and luckily I was with her, so I was able to kind of help her. I think it's always really important as a runner, particularly if you're running somewhere where it's quiet, that someone knows where you're going and what time you're going to be back. Well, that's just sort of a boring practical thing.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because my watch started vibrating and it was like, it looks like you fell. And then there was like a little SOS button. And I was like, oh my gosh, my watch like calculated all of this. So it was just fascinating. There's
I'm glad you're all right.
A lot of highlights to the last few weeks, but that is the latest thing that shook me up. I was also following your trip in the Alps with your family. So give us some highlights on your trip there.
Yeah, went away, had a little vacation in France, ran in the Alps. It was always lovely. Although I'm not very good at running uphill, and it's notoriously hilly in the Alps. I went running with my whole family for the first time, which is brilliant. Both my boys and my daughter and my wife. We kind of went for a group. We looked like one of those. What was it called with Chevy Chase, like on a European vacation, and they all go for a run, like kind of like that. I wish we'd had matching joggers on, but we didn't. We went for a little run together. It was lovely. Managed to do a few decent runs as well. Ran around a beautiful lake where we were. Chipped out a 10-miler. So the old runner, when you go on holiday and you're thinking, I still want to run because I get to see loads of amazing things. Met some good people, stopped at a little French bakery on the way back from the run, and then half-a-mile walk, carrying a couple of baguettes, having, practiced my order for croissant and pain au chocolat. And then back to the accommodation for a bit of French breakfast. Loved it. Really, really good.
That sounds like a runner's dream right there, to just run with family members, have some solo runs, right? It's about community and connection, but it's also about your solo time. And I can picture you walking back with those baguettes. That's a great visual. Providing for the family once again.
Right. Community and connection is where it's all going to be down under in Sydney. Let's talk a little bit about that. The TCS Sydney Marathon takes place next week, Sunday, the 31st of August. It's the first time that Sydney's hosted the race since it was granted major status back in November. And the field features some of the biggest names in marathon running, including 14-time major winner, 2-time Olympic champion, former world record holder, and the only human ever to run under 2 hours for the marathon distance. Deena, who is it?
Oh, it's the great Eliud Kipchoge.
Eliud Kipchoge. And as you'll hear later on in the show, I ask Wayne Larden, the race director of the TCS Sydney Marathon, about his feelings around having Eliud in the race and kind of his hopes and aspirations for Eliud's experience. Also, he won't have it his own way entirely, I don't think, Kipchoge in Sydney. Vincent Getich, who back in Berlin in 2023 recorded the third fastest debut marathon in history, is also in the men's field.
It's going to be quite a matchup. And on the women's side, Olympic champion and 2-time majors winner Sifan Hassan makes her debut down under. And she's joined by Deena Kastor, former world record holder and winner of the London Marathon in 2019, 2020, and the Chicago Marathon champion in 2018, 2019. So both races really looking for some great matchups.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Always get excited about seeing Hassan run. So yeah, I'm super excited about what she's going to do on the roads in Sydney. In the wheelchair comp, Marcel Tamari Suzuki, defending champion Josh Cassidy, going to battle it out alongside 6-time major winner Daniel Romanchuk and 8-time TCS London Marathon winner David Weir. So the chair event looks really exciting too.
Sydney's looking like the place to be because in the women's wheelchair pro division, it is strong as ever. The biggest names in wheelchair racing are going to be there. Susanna Scaroni, Manuela Schar, Eden Rainbow Cooper, all aiming to win the first edition of Sydney being in the Abbott World Marathon Majors.
It's impressive, isn't it? It's impressive. You know, again, when I'm talking to Wayne, I said, I asked him a question. You'll have to listen to the rest of the show to find out his answer. And it was about, how do you feel about having all these hitters, proper hitters, 15 years ago? Is this something that you would have envisaged Sydney hosting, some of the greatest marathon runners and wheelchair athletes in history? We're looking at Sydney and I haven't run obviously the course, but I know Sydney a little bit, and we broke down some of the race last year, and the route starting at the Harbour Bridge and finishing round at the Opera House, and we spoke about how it turns and it rolls a little bit. It's going to be an exciting race.
Yeah, and when I think of the names and the quality of the fields put together for this race, it's really going to be interesting to see how the hills become part of the racers' strategies. Like if they studied the course and figured out like which hill do they make their move on, or they just base it off of what their other competitors are feeling and kind of reading the vibe that's happening around them. So I'm fascinated to see how the course itself plays into those moves. But for Wayne, when you look at not just hosting the best runners in the world, his event is moving to 35,000 participants, more than almost 3,400 of them going for their 7th star. So I just think there's so many storylines to talk about as this race gets ready to run. And it'll be interesting to see which headlines make the front page the next day.
Yeah, I reckon having Kipchoge there is, really going to motivate people to come out and watch, but also motivate the press, to get behind the event. And I always like seeing Kipchoge race. And what we've seen in the last few years is, and we've spoken about this before on the show, Deena, when he's on form and it goes right, he's still one of the world's greatest marathon runners. Sometimes things can creep in, can't they, and throw Kipchoge off his game. And that can make for exciting racing as well. So I think there's a potential, Kipchoge scalp. Maybe we'll see a new Australian hitter come through hometown marathon. Australians love running in their home cities. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. But there's probably none better than to tell us about what lies ahead at the TCS Sydney Marathon than our first guest, the man responsible for the impressive field, Wayne Larden. The role of a race director for Abbott World Marathon Major Series event is a significant role, Wayne. How are you coping at the moment?
I'm doing pretty good at the moment. It's sort of, it's not long to go. But the team are all feeling pretty good about things. I'm feeling quite comfortable with where we're at. All of our plans are in, everything's looking good. We're ready to go, and we're just waiting for everyone to start arriving. So, can't wait.
The graft is done. So what do the priorities look like in the final few days?
So we're all just sort of doing the final tweaks to procurement, to supply up, briefings and stuff like that. We had our first volunteer briefing this week. We've got our course briefings starting next week. So it's pretty well, 2 or 3 weeks out. We're operational, in my opinion. There's always something that will pop up, right? It's it's an outdoor event in a big city with lots of moving pieces. So the good thing is everything else is ready, so you can deal with any issues sort of with a clear headspace, or as clear as you can, 3 weeks out from a major marathon.
Like, what are you most excited about the entire, world seeing about Sydney this year?
We're really excited to deliver our event that we've been delivering for over 20 years now as an Abbott World Marathon Major, with an incredible elite field. The biggest race we've ever done. In fact, the biggest race ever delivered in Oceania.
What are your numbers this year compared to previous years? How many people are you expecting to see?
Last year, we had 24,500 people apply to run. We're 20,800 finish. And we did our first ballot this year just to gauge demand, once we became a major. And we had 79,000 people apply. Now, we didn't want to grow that much, of course. So we took enough registrations through to hopefully get us 35,000 runners on the start line. So, there's a bit of finger in the air in terms of what drop-off rates might be from registration to who turns up. So we're hoping for about 35,000. If we do that, we'll be over the moon. But it'll be in that vicinity.
And when we met last time, you were talking about the importance of building a reputation of the race in the communities on course. And really looking to establish the race as a global marathon, but also as a local, a Sydney Marathon with Sydney people coming out and watching. What have you done specifically, that you say, well, those communities may be more engaged in this particular section of the course? Is there anything you're excited about seeing come to life?
I think, that's been one of our main focus areas, of course. As the new Abbott World Marathon Major, other than finisher numbers, the biggest difference between our event and the other majors is the number of spectators out there on course. And so that's been something that we've focused a lot on. Part of our elite athlete recruitment strategy was very much focused on which global marathon runners would permeate the general population beyond the running community and get people outside of their houses and on the sidelines. So I think we did really well there with, Eliud coming and Sifan coming and, the greatest wheelchair racers in the world coming. And, the amount of media that we have had on mainstream nightly, TV news and everything else has been incredible since we've signed them. And there won't be one person who lives in Sydney who will not know that the greatest marathon runners of all time are running through the streets of Sydney on Sunday, the 31st of August. And what parent isn't going to want to bring their kids out to see
get the
these
kids out,
athletes
yeah.
race through Sydney for the first time and maybe the last time?
Do you have a kind of, right, deep breath, this is it moment as a race director, or is it so frantic that there's just too much going on?
I don't sleep much the night before, and I like to get out on site early. I'll often be wandering around the start venue at 2:30 in the morning, just having a look at everything, just enjoying the piece, and seeing that it's all ready to go, and have a coffee and waiting for people to arrive. That's a moment of reflection, ready to go, sort of like a warm up for the race. And when people start arriving, the energy at the start is incredible. And then the other part then too is when you go to the finish, and I get there before the first athletes arrive, and watch it all unfold, the finish, the excitement, the cheers, the crowds and everything else. But the thing I love the most about the finish, which is sort of a opposite emotions to what you experience at the start, but same sort of energy. So those two emotions really are the moments of my race day, other than doing your job, but just that participant emotion and experience, and the difference at the end when they've done it. They're just so proud of themselves. They've got their medal, like that's an incredible part and an incredibly rewarding part of my job as race director. And I love those two parts of race day.
So, Wayne, we said that Eliud Kipchoge's doing the race this year. Let's say as his dream race for you as a race director. What would you like him to say about the event when he's finished?
I'd be pretty confident right now that Eliud would be really enthusiastically telling the world how beautiful Sydney is, how friendly Australians are, what a great time he has had in Sydney, and what a great race it is, and what a beautiful course it is. I'm absolutely confident he will say those things completely unprompted, whether he has a great race or he doesn't have a great race. And I do hope he does have a great race. I'd love to see him right up there and pushing the front and winning if he can. But I've got no doubt in what things that Eliud will love about Sydney, and I'm sure he'll be raving about it for a long time. And we're curating a really nice tour for him, so he sees some of the sites that you might not see otherwise. So I'm sure he'll have a great time.
Really enjoyed catching up with Wayne. Deena, there's something we haven't talked about. We mentioned the elites. There's one former major winner that we didn't talk about. How's your training going?
Well, I will say that I am at a point 1 week out from race day where I'm kind of wishing I started training earlier, that I put in more long runs, that I was a little more consistent. But other than that, it's been great.
Other than that, you sound like every other Sydney marathoner out there right now. Sounds like you're trying to backfill, sandbag a little bit. Come on. Where's the confident, mindset focused Deena that we know?
I was having like a little bit of that panic, and maybe even entertaining some panic training in there until I fell the other day. But also until I talked to James Constantine, our next guest. He got me so fired up to just be in Sydney itself and experience the running culture there. He knows everything about running in Sydney and the surrounding areas. And he got me so thrilled to visit the parks and the coffee houses, and even the on the TCS Sydney Marathon app, they're going to have a treasure hunt where you can go and get discounts around town. Just some brilliant activation. So I'm just super excited to experience everything about the week being in that beautiful
city. So that
city.
means you kind of shifted your focus a little bit, because of course I remember, when you first started, you were bigging yourself up a little bit, and you were backing yourself. You were going, I'm gonna, run fastest 50-year-old in history or something. Something like that. It was, you said, and So now, of course, we're going. You've been on the slippery slope, but it's the right one sometimes, isn't it? Like what we did this in New York. What a brilliant thing to go and the last time you ran with purpose in Sydney was back in 2000. 25 years is a long time, quarter of a century, half your life. You're back there.
God.
Yeah. and
dig it in, Martin.
You're back there again, aiming to have a wonderful experience first and foremost.
Absolutely. And my love for the sport is equally as high as 25 years ago when I made my first Olympic team, if not higher than that. And in this next conversation with James Constantine, I hope you feel a deep love for Sydney even before you step foot on that continent. Today's guest is James Constantine, who knows everything about running in Sydney, Australia, and combines his passion for running with his savvy marketing skills to serve as digital marketing director for the TCS Sydney Marathon. James, welcome to Marathon Talk.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Deena. I can't wait to have a great chat about all things running in Sydney.
You're in the thick of preparation. So how's the energy in Sydney leading up to race weekend?
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. I think having the community really bond together for our first ever AWMM Marathon Major. There's this real vibe in Sydney that I don't think we've ever seen before, or at least maybe not since 25 years ago at the Sydney Olympic Games.
Yes, and I was there 25 years ago, and I'm returning 25 years later. So as you've been in this influential role on social media and really have your finger on the pulse of the running scene there, how do you think it's changed in the past 25 years, or hasn't it?
Oh, I think it's absolutely changed. Definitely in the last few years, probably post-COVID, a lot of people in Sydney, we had quite restrictive lockdowns in Australia, and particularly in Sydney. A lot of people just got into endurance sport, whether it was walking, running, cycling, swimming, and the momentum has just carried on from there. So I think when Sydney became a candidate for the AWMM Marathon Majors in 2022, just 3 years ago, it was kind of the perfect storm. We had all these people in Sydney who had just taken up running or maybe put the shoes on for the first time in a while. And then a really clear direction as to where the TCS Sydney Marathon wanted to go in terms of becoming the next AWMM Marathon Major. So I would say that the culture has certainly changed over the last few years. Running has become this kind of cool thing almost, and it has absolutely been exacerbated by social media, but also just the communities and the run club culture has really developed over the last few years in Sydney as well. And it's just a great place to be in Australia at the moment if you're a runner.
Yeah, a lot of buzz happening around there. The pandemic was good for running, I feel like. It was good for people to acquire these healthy habits to get out and put in the kilometers. Are there particular spots within the city that have just become kind of iconic for people to gather and run?
Oh, absolutely. I think Sydney is one of those cities where everywhere is a highlight to run. We've got this beautiful Sydney Harbour, which is an unobstructed route that you can run, no traffic lights, just pedestrians on the pathway. And you can easily get a 20, 25K out and back long run all along the water. So it is a beautiful place to go for a long run, to go for a shakeout run. A lot of international marathoners, I'm sure, will be running right along the water's edge. But even going into the eastern suburbs a little bit, one of the meccas of running in Sydney is Centennial Park, and that's actually around a 30-kilometre course, 30-kilometre point on the marathon course. That is a real hub of activity, a beautiful green park, maybe similar to Central Park in New York, St. James's Park in London, where it's about a 4-kilometre route, greenery everywhere, a lot of football and cricket ovals in the middle, and many, many run clubs gather there on the weekdays for coffee and runs, but certainly on the weekends, it is just a hub of activity. So for those who are coming into the city, make sure obviously to check out the harbour, running around underneath the harbour bridge in the Opera House before the race, but also go out to Centennial Park if you've got time and really soak up a lot of the run club culture that Sydney has to offer.
How does Sydney kind of welcome or nurture or foster or engage new runners? How is that culture working? Because we always want to get more people involved in our sport.
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the initiatives that we developed over the last couple of years was the TCS Sydney Marathon Run Club. It was designed as a really inclusive, non-elite environment for people who were training for their first marathon in Sydney to actually come along and be part of a community that really supported them getting to a new personal best distance almost every run that they were doing. So we have training programs. We work closely with ASICS and their Runkeeper training program as well to provide 20-week programs to new marathoners as well as those who are returning to the marathon, and just creating a space where people feel like they really belong. And that program, we started with about 100 people once a month at Centennial Park. That's where we started a couple of years ago. But now we're getting 500 plus runners every month to Barangaroo, which is a beautiful place to run along the foreshore of Sydney Harbour. But we've also partnered with over 20 clubs around Australia in every state and territory in Australia who are also delivering TCS Sydney Marathon Run Clubs. And now we have over 10,000 people running underneath this run club umbrella of ours across the country, which is just phenomenal. And a huge shout out to our community team for standing that up and really helping that blossom and really empowering not just the runners that come and see us, but also run clubs across Australia, because we know that it is the runners themselves who make our event as great as it is.
Right. And if you're thinking of the best Australia has to offer, for the 35,000 people participating and over 3,000 people getting their 7th star on race day, what do you hope that, or what do you think is like the highlight for them, right? Like, what are you really excited to show off?
I think the finish line, I am very biased, obviously, but the finish line at the Opera House forecourt is really an iconic moment. It really is. I ran the TCS Sydney Marathon a couple of times before I started working here. It is unforgettable, regardless of what time you might be running, what stage of mental capacity you might be in. When you hit Macquarie Street with 1 kilometre to go, it's a downhill kilometre to the Opera House. It is an unforgettable moment going over the finish line and seeing those beautiful Opera House sails in front of you. That's definitely a highlight. I guess the other one for a lot of people, regardless of whether they're local or international, is of course running across the Sydney Opera House Bridge. We start at the same start line as the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games on Miller Street, which is fantastic, right next to North Sydney Oval. And then it's a downhill first couple of kilometres before you hit that Sydney Harbour Bridge. It is an amazing moment. It is the one of the only times during the year that the bridge is closed. The only other event is the New Year's Eve fireworks in Sydney. So it is an incredible moment to run across the bridge early in the race as well. Really soak it in, take it all in, look at people around you, dish out some high fives. The emotion is just incredible early in the race and of course at the finish line. Yes, we have the landscape, but we've also got the people on the course, the people supporting the people on the course, and also just an atmosphere that hopefully people never forget.
What are some of your recommendations for top things to see or do in Sydney?
We have a lot of great initiatives this year for people who are coming domestically and internationally to Sydney, through something that we call the Treasure Hunt, which is essentially a local business initiative that we have with over 50 businesses across Sydney, offering deals and discounts to runners and spectators across event week and on race day as well. And all this is going to be available through the TCS Sydney Marathon app, where people will be able to jump on and then actually search for treasures around Sydney. So there's a lot of hospitality deals. So think food and beverage, cafes, bars, restaurants, these sorts of things. But outside of that, make sure to visit places like Taronga Zoo. Make sure to get down the Bondi, the iconic Bondi Beach. If you've got some other time, I want to go up north. There's the Hunter Valley Wineries, which is a beautiful place to recover and relax with a glass of red. And then down south, we have some beautiful beaches in Jarvis Bay as well, and plenty of other amazing experiences around New South Wales. So we'll also be putting out a lot of this information on our website and through our digital channels as well as we come up to race day for all our participants.
I have heard the race course is very hilly, looking at the elevation map and seeing it's like really constant, right? Like it's just constantly up and down. Is there a trick to running that way since you're so running savvy?
There is some undulation. Sydney is a bit of a lumpy city. There will be some slight rises and slight falls, particularly in the first half of the race. But in the second half of the race, it's really flattened out this year. We've extended the course down Anzac Parade, which is one of the main roads in Sydney, going down towards the southeastern suburbs of Sydney. And that is essentially a wide, flat road. Participants will hit Anzac Parade around about the 16 kilometre or the 10 mile mark, and they'll basically get the next 5 to 6 miles of the next 10 to 12 kilometres of that road to really set up their race from about 16 to about 28 kilometres before they start heading down Driver Avenue past some of our iconic sporting stadiums and then into Centennial Park around about the 30 kilometre mark. I guess my best suggestion is really just take in the views for those first few kilometers as you set up your marathon. Really ease into the race and really enjoy every step with a little bit of elevation here and there.
Yeah, and I think maybe with an undulating course, instead of pacing yourself every kilometer, maybe pacing yourself every 5K so that it's kind of playing into those undulations and you're not getting so insular as whether that was a slow or a fast kilometer. For someone who is entertaining going down under to run the Sydney Marathon next year, what is your advice to them?
Well, we will be opening the ballot shortly after the event. That date will come out very shortly, if not already. And I think it's one of those things where people might get a little bit scared off by ballots. You know, we've all seen the numbers with the London Marathon, 1.1 million ballot entries, and people are sort of saying, oh, can't wait for my rejection letter or something like that.
Right.
But we really want people to see what Sydney has to offer this year and really inspire them to come in 2026 and beyond. So please keep your eye out on our website. We will have that ballot information live on our website on race day, so people can join our mailing list to make sure they find out all of the latest updates on the ballot. And then outside of that, we have a fantastic charity and international travel program as well, which will also be have all the information on our website. So there are multiple avenues, like all the other AWMM Marathon Majors events, where people can get in. But we really just want to have this opportunity, next weekend to really show Sydney to the world, and then people to sort of, make up their own mind, like, hey, I feel inspired. That's something that I might want to be a part of next year as part of their AWMM Marathon Majors journey.
That is great. If you could sum up the Sydney Marathon in just one word, what would you say?
Iconic.
Excellent. I love it. James, thank you so much for giving us the time in what is certainly a busy time. Give him a follow on Instagram for more about running in the beautiful city of Sydney, Australia. James, thank you so much for your time and wisdom and your love of the city and the TCS Sydney Marathon. Good luck for a successful event, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much, Deena. I'll see you soon. Can't wait.
Okay, are you ready for our 7 speedy questions to represent the 7 Abbott World Marathon Majors? It's just brief answers is all I'm looking for.
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right. Where is your favorite place to run?
Around the Sydney Harbour. You can't beat it.
It is beautiful. What running achievement are you most proud of?
Definitely my sub 3 hour run in Berlin in 2019. It was the first and only sub 3 marathon I've run.
Woo! What is your favorite running memory?
I think probably running my first event, which was the City of Surf back in 2008. I was 16 years old. I'd never run more than a park run before or 5K before. And it was the first time I ever ran 14K and really started my running journey.
Oh, it got you hooked, right?
Absolutely.
We all love that. We all love a good story that hooks you on the event. Would you rather run in extreme heat or extreme cold, and why?
I would have to say extreme cold. That might be a little bit different to a lot of Australian runners, but you can warm up in the extreme cold. It can be challenging at the start, but I've run in sub-zero conditions before in Canada and actually really enjoyed it. So yeah, definitely the cold.
Okay. Luckily, there's so much nice apparel out there. You could just layer up if you need to anyway.
Exactly.
What is your weirdest running habit or superstition?
That's a good question. I think I have to put on my watch before I put on my running clothes. I don't know why, but I just put on my watch first. I think I did it once without thinking about it and ran a personal best for a half marathon. So that's just something weird that I do on race morning now.
Forevermore, since it brought you a PB. If you could run with any famous athlete, past or present, who would it be and why?
Well, we are extremely excited to have Eliud Kipchoge join us this year. He has been an absolute icon, just a running hero of mine, and for the opportunity just to see him, hopefully get a sneaky photo at some point. And just having him at the event, I saw him run when he did the sub-2 marathon at Ineos in 2019 in Vienna. It's an unforgettable moment, and just to see him in person, perhaps just one more time, if I could run with him. Don't know if he could be in Sydney, but he would absolutely be my number one choice.
Yeah, he's actually so approachable and kind, and just like shines light wherever he goes. What a good guy. If you could describe the feeling of crossing a marathon finish line in one word, what would that word be?
Unforgettable. You can't forget your marathon finishes, regardless of what time you've run. Everyone puts in the training. Everyone has the same feeling. Like everyone is tired, whether it's Eliud Kipchoge or whether it's yourself or whether it's the person who's the last to cross the line. Everyone goes through the same emotions, the same training, the same journey, and that's what's so beautiful about marathon running. So yeah, definitely unforgettable.
I hope you enjoyed listening to James as much as I enjoyed talking with him.
Yeah, and we also caught up with Marathon Talk listener, current 6-star Abbott finisher, hoping to bag his 7th finish in Sydney, Simon Bolton. We're going to hear from Simon Bolton now. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Thanks, Martin. Really good to be here.
So why did you want to do Sydney?
Well, originally, I was thinking, I'm in my late 50s, so I'm thinking, can I qualify for Boston? So I went onto the website, looked to see what the Boston qualifying time was, and thought, maybe I get a shout what marathon I'm going to run to try and qualify for Boston again. And I saw Sydney. I was like, another world marathon major. I probably better do that then, because need the complete set, don't you? So that's why I ended up signing up for Sydney.
It's the first time Sydney's been an Abbott World Marathon major. What are you hoping for?
I'm more excited than you can imagine, Martin. I get on a plane to go to the other side of the world on Sunday. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Really excited for it. Actually, my training has been absolutely brilliant this training block. So definitely looking forward to the race and hoping it's going to be a good one.
What do you hope Sydney's going to give you?
Enjoying is really important to me. But in terms of the race itself, I have got a goal. I'd like to beat my PB. So, I'm definitely not an elite runner. My PB so far is 3:16:11 approximately, which I set in Berlin back in 2018. So that's quite a long time ago. I'm a few years older. I'm 58. So, of those years of kind of mid-late 50s, you lose quite a lot of speed. And I've been working really, really hard to get close to 3:16.
And what do you reckon of what you know about the course in Sydney? Have you had a chance to look at the route?
So I think it's going to be quite like Boston. So lots of rolling hills, net downhill, but some pretty meaty hills in there as well, over bridges. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. And if I do get close to or beat my PB, I'll be delighted, because I think it's going to be a much tougher course than Berlin, which is pancake flat.
Starting with the Harbour Bridge and kind of finishing with the Opera House doesn't get much better, does it?
No, I mean, I can't think of many majors that have got the kind of scenery that Sydney's going to have. So that should be pretty exciting.
What are you going to do with your finishers medal? Because, you've already done the other 6 and you're kind of going to be adding one more, hopefully with a PB attached to it. And where's that going to live when you're back in the UK? And are you doing anything else? Like, are you attaching anything else to the trip that's kind of exciting you?
I'm around my neck, Martin. Till I get home. Yeah. No, I've got a bag somewhere with all the medals in. Sometime I probably ought to put them in the frame or something. I don't know, but it's the experience that really matters more than the medal to me.
Thanks very much for telling us, about how excited you are. Hopefully, we'll get you on after the show with the medal still around your neck, and you can tell us a little bit more about the experience and how the race went and how those little ups and downs were. Good luck. Yeah. Have a great time.
Thank you, Martin.
We have a host of Marathon Talk listeners being represented alongside you in Sydney, Deena. A big shout out coming up. I'm going to need to take a deep breath here. Tawny from the Philippines, Lord from Wales, Brian Lipp going for his 4th major of the year, Jane Shimko from a guest on the show, Mark Rogerson, Deep Shah, Stephanie Asiano, and finally Julia Gator, who will be running the TCS Marathon next weekend. Good luck to everyone. If we haven't given you a shout on the show, I'm sure you're going to have a brilliant time out there. Deena, I'm really excited to find out about your race and just how things go. But, Deena, with just over a week left, the question on everybody's lips is, have the Dominators held off the mile crushers?
Oh, it's like a competition within a competition these days. How do we keep doing this? It's been a difficult time for the Dominators, not going to lie. They've tried hard, but the average is going to be too much to make up. That's a hard pill to swallow.
Well, not really. Not really, is it? When Deena, you know. It looks like it. Deena's done. This was the challenge that we set ourselves a couple of months ago around listeners joining a team representing either Deena's Dominators or Martin's Mile Crushers. And we're logging miles as we've been going through the past few weeks and months. And, Deena's Dominators have, at the time of recording, clocked an impressive, very impressive 361,476 miles. That's some going. That works out at 283 miles per athlete. There's a big round of applause for all of your Dominators there, Deena. All of them. However, all 950 of my Mile Crushers have heard the call. They've listened. They've covered a huge 277,607 miles. Maybe not as far as your team. However, when we level the playing field, Deena, that equates to 292 miles per athlete. So you're currently just 9 miles short per athlete, Deena. Better rack it up.
I know when you put the numbers like that, I'm like, ouch, ouch. But, I'd like to say thank you to the Dominators for helping log all these miles and calling all ultramarathoners. Perhaps you can help us step up our game here and join the challenge by downloading the Global Run Club app on your preferred app store. And if you're on Instagram, just comment challenge on any of our posts, please, please, please. And we'll DM you the link to sign up. But we're only accepting Dominators at this point. Martin's team has been cut off.
Deena,
That's not true.
Deena's on the phone. Hello, is that Global Run Club? Can you just switch off Martin's Mile Crushers, please? Nobody can join. Stop logging miles. I need to get catching up. Right.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
when the going gets
Good luck.
tough, I'm going to play dirty here.
Right. Good luck. Listen, final, good luck for you. We're almost there for this week.
That's it for another episode of Marathon Talk. If this is your first time listening, don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. You can also follow our social media channels for more. Search Marathon Talk on your platform of choice, including our brand new TikTok channel. Wow, we have a TikTok channel.
Right. Deena, where in the world will you be next week?
Next week, I'm going to be down under in Sydney, Australia.
Whoop, whoop.
But right now, I'm at Mammoth High School cross country running camp in the Bay Area of California. So having fun here, logging some miles with the teenagers. And I really look forward to that trip to Sydney, Australia.
Is that like a little bit of last minute prep for you, Deena? Going to join a little teenage girls run camp, get some last minute miles in, panic miles?
That's the tactic. Like, let's get some speed going right now, get my turnover going at the last minute. What are you going to be up to, Mark?
Load of teenage girls signed up for Deena's Dominators at the end of the period, cramming in their week. Brilliant. I will be continuing with some run training. I'm back from holiday. I've got a triathlon coming up in September. So yeah, busy times, but yeah, looking forward to seeing how Sydney gets on. Listening to how our listeners get on, finding out particularly how Simon does, and everybody out in Sydney. Hope you have a cracking time. Until then, enjoy the run wherever it takes you.